I am Priyanka, founder of Helix, and we are helping people lead a happier life. While we are navigating difficult situations in life, I have Rashi, who is the founder and counseling psychologist at Inner Light Counseling, who's going to just help us navigate those difficult situations in life. Hi.
Hi, thank you so much for giving us time and for setting up this conversation.
Are you ready for it?
Yes, looking forward. I'm happy to always come and speak to a larger audience about topics around mental health because we work with clients one to one in our therapy space. But to have an opportunity to help that information reach more people is always of great value to me too.
I agree. So I wanted to talk about some coping mechanisms, right?
Hmm.
So there's a negative one, there's a positive one.
Hmm.
When we are having happy thoughts and emotions that make us feeling positive about the day, we would end up, calling our friends, be at a social event, go out with our friends, appreciate other people, hug people. That is actually converting happiness into actions, happy actions. But
Yeah.
when these emotions become sad or negative or basically confusing, we don't know, we are not aware what we are feeling, we tend to close ourselves off because we don't know how to deal with it. So
Hmm.
what would you say would be a healthy coping mechanism to deal with these emotions and feelings which we are not aware of?
Hmm. So, lot of thoughts go through our mind on a day-to-day basis, right? And not all thoughts will always be positive. Not all thoughts will always be uplifting or motivating. So it's very normal. It's very natural to have certain negative emotions, observe certain negative thoughts. Sometimes they may be about self-doubt. Sometimes they may be about certain negative outcomes that you're expecting or anticipating in your life. So one is to recognize them as just thoughts, right? To not attach too much meaning, to not attach too much significance to them, or feel like you have to act upon them. When you hold on to a thought too much, it becomes much bigger. If you allow a thought to come and pass by, then you're able to carry on with your day. So negative thoughts and emotions are part and parcel of your our mind's functioning, and it's okay to attend to them. It's okay to respond to them, but not make it really big.
Mhm.
Other healthy coping mechanisms, as you just did ask, one is to, kind of develop a regular healthy habit to journal your thoughts. Always helps to write down your thoughts or your feelings because it provides you a safe space to express what is on your mind, and it also helps you to find certain patterns that may exist in these negative thoughts that are coming, right? So if I come around to journal, I don't have to do it every day if I find it overwhelming, but even if I come around to do that once in a week, about or once every 2 days, I will be able to recognize patterns with my thoughts, and that helps. The next is to have, a safe space with people around to be able to share, right? So healthy communication or healthy social communication or social connections with people around you. So build that, invest some time in building strong, positive relationships with people around you where you can find a certain kind of support to share your negative feelings or negative thoughts. It helps you to bounce, or it helps you to reflect that and get some perspective, and it definitely reduces the feeling of loneliness or feeling of isolation. So when you're going through a certain kind of negative feeling, that could just like make it worse.
Mhm.
Beyond that, I think a very, very important healthy mechanism to cope with your negative thoughts is to make sure that you are keeping yourself active, right? Active physically, to kind of go out there and do certain physical exercises, because that significantly lowers any signs or any symptoms of anxiety or anything like that. It could be something very simple, right? Like a home workout or a 10 or 20 minute, but physical activity is important.
Yes.
And also to have a creative outlet. Now, again, a creative outlet is not something you have to force yourself to build on a day-to-day basis, but it should be something that you indulge in on a weekly or bi-weekly, whether you're painting or you're creative writing or you're playing a certain instrument or anything that you find therapeutic, right? It could be cooking a meal, but anything that to you is a healthy way to express your emotions so that you're getting some space to stay with your thoughts and notice the negative emotions and negative thoughts as they come.
So Rashi, what would be a good journaling prompt that you would advise that this is one prompt that you can start off with for somebody who has never journaled before?
So for somebody who's never journaled before, a good prompt to start with would be that what was the, it could be two things. What was the best thing about my day today, or what was the best thing about my week? Or and what is something that I would like to change. That is always a good prompt to start with. So, what was something that I absolutely liked or I'm grateful for in the week that went by or the day that went by? And one is what is one thing I would like to change about the week that went by? So, it gives me a neutral, it gives you a space to acknowledge the positive, and it also gives me space to recognize what I would like to do differently.
Right. And basically, an improvement setup for you to probably change something about your life that you're not happy with, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Understood. So I think, Rashi, we are in a great time right now in India, right? It's a great deal that some of us are really trying to educate people around the importance of therapy and how it actually helps people. Now, to
Hmm.
reinforce this further, why someone might need help. Some people are in denial. Some people say, like, I don't agree with the practice or something like that. But there are definitely some warning signs, right? We do see people suffering, and what could be those warning signs that anyone, like, for example, me, I'm not a professional, but if I need to see those signs in somebody, that I can probably ask them to take professional help,
Hmm.
because as a friend I'm not equipped to do so. What would be those indications as per you?
I'll start with your last statement because a lot of us very naturally would reach out to our friends when we are feeling low or we are feeling a certain way, and that's completely normal to do so.
Mm.
In fact, I feel like friends or family often become our first point counselors, right? We reach out to them. But it's also important to recognize that while they have our best intent in mind, they are truly our well-wishers and they want to help us, they are not trained to help
Right.
us. They're not trained to understand human behavior, human emotions, or the nuances of these things. So it's important to recognize that and reach out to them as a one-to-one connection to feel better, but it's not to see that as a replacement to therapy, right? Now, what are the signs that one may want to look out for in themselves, or signs that you may want to look out for even in people around you? First is if there is a sudden change that you're noticing in your mood or your behavior, right? That is usually the first thing you will notice. Unlike physical health, because mental health is not visible, it's not like we see visible signs, symptoms, or anything that is, particularly too obvious for us to. So usually seeking professional support is delayed when we're talking about mental health, because we take our time, we want to give ourselves some space, we think it's a phase, we wait for it to kind of get through. So the first change would be if there is a significant shift in your mood or in your behavior. Basically, that would include extreme mood swings or any behavior that you feel is unusual of you, right? So
Mhm.
that's one sign. If you feel that there is a sudden shift or sudden change in your sleep or your appetite, right? So if your food habits are suddenly changing, you don't feel like eating, or you're not able to sleep well, or anything such as that, that is extremely sudden or erratic. Again, that is a sign. Um, Inability or difficulty in performing your day-to-day tasks, right? All of us have a certain set of routine in place. So whether it is getting to office, being able to cope up with the challenges that are thrown at me on a day-to-day basis. I mean, it could be school, why work, it could be somebody who's in school or somebody who's a homemaker. Anything that I see is interfering significantly, right? Where I'm not able to kind of cope for a recurrent number of days with my daily chores or with my daily responsibilities. That's a sign.
Mm.
Of course, needless for me to say that if there is any thought of self-harm, again, right, where you feel a certain kind of purposelessness, or you're
Yeah.
feeling a persistent sadness or hopelessness around life or around any one area of your work, it could be related to your relationship, to your maybe your marriage or your work, or your life in general. So these are some very key signs where one can warning signs that one can notice in either themselves or people around them.
Right, right. So it's interesting that you say, when it comes to talking to people around you, I see a lot of patterns while I'm interacting with individuals who are primarily men, looking for, help on companionship, dating relationships. And, it happens so that they do not have someone to even fall back to. Like, the communication channels between men are very restricted, I feel. Recently, I did a men's mental health discussion. It was an open discussion. I was not expecting people to turn up, to be very honest, but it was a good discussion to have. People genuinely opened up, and they were trying to basically communicate that yes, they do not have people around, or they do not feel comfortable to even have those discussions with people around, because there's a lot of judgment involved. They might be considered as weak, or that's the way they have been conditioned over a period of time. So what to do in those cases where they don't have people around them to even identify that, hey, there's something wrong that's happening in your life, maybe just go out and take some help.
That's exactly one of the reasons why I like to engage in conversations like these, because that's how information is made accessible to people, right? Where they can help understand and become aware themselves. Your
Hmm.
observation about men, it may be right. I would still give it a little bit benefit of doubt that in a city like, let's say, Mumbai, or in a big city, it's still relatively better because people are able to talk about these things. But
Hmm.
in two-tier cities, or in a lot of cultures and communities within our country, it is considered as a taboo. If
Hmm.
not taboo, because of the social wiring or social conditioning, men are usually not too comfortable talking about their thoughts or talking about their emotions in general. So
Hmm.
even if they recognize that they need help, they sometimes feel very confused about how they will even be able to articulate themselves to someone, right? So it may be about judgment, but sometimes it's not even about judgment. It's about their own limiting beliefs where they feel like they will not be able to open up because they don't know how to.
Right.
So that is one challenge. Opening up to their friends who are of the same gender, opening up to other men to talk about this is, a challenge, because they feel the worry of being seen in a certain light, or being sidelined because of these factors. So that bias is there in the society. I won't take that away. But building more and more awareness around mental health is important. And as a friend, or as somebody who recognizes this, it's also important to provide information to people around you.
Hmm.
That is the reason why in on so many platforms we talk about making conversations around mental health normal, right? Normalize these conversations. It's not for any other reason, because it's just that maybe somebody else is going to benefit from it, right? Maybe somebody else is going to recognize something that you know of, and it may relate to them, and they may take the right step.
Hmm.
So that's one. So providing information is what we can do. We can encourage them to take small steps, manageable small steps, to
Yeah.
either be part of a support group, or attend like start a conversation with somebody that can help them. Expressing our concern or expressing what we observe of them is important, but to do it without a certain sense of blame, right? So to
Right.
help them also to be able to see what they are going through, but not feel too cornered for it,
Hmm.
not feel threatened by it, because that is the first thing, right? When people give feedback, there's a sense of attack. So it's important to remain empathetic. It's important to highlight our concerns, but
Hmm.
and provide information. I think that's the most important thing, because forcing someone to acknowledge their mental health issues can often backfire, right? So it's important that we approach the conversation with more empathy
Hmm.
and leave the door open for future discussions, right? To say, okay, if and when you feel like this is how much I can offer support, or this is what I can do, and that's how it'll help you.
Right. So you can just have that, you can't have those expectations attached to the conversation that, they will end up
They
making
must end up. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You
Yeah,
can't have that. That's true.
true. Understood. So, Rashi, in terms of personal crisis, like I think this is with respect to probably somebody. It's not just men, but like I think in cases of women as well. In our society, we live in this protective environment. Where we've not gone out of the house for so long, and eventually, when it comes to work, we have started to move out of our houses, go to
Hmm.
different cities, and it becomes very isolating, right? Because we are not equipped to deal with so much uncertainty. There are things coming up, like when it comes to relationship, that people are betraying each other, cheating on each other. So these
Hmm.
are like, I think these are crisis situations where you're like, I don't know what is happening with me.
Hmm.
And how can I even deal with all of this happening around me? So your entire trust systems gets shattered in those situations, right? Because you have entrusted somebody with your information, you're vulnerable, and then, it
Hmm.
goes for a toss. So how to maintain my mental health during these challenging times, because maybe it's not because of me, it's just something happening around me, but it's kind of bothering me that this might happen to me as well because it's too close to home.
Hmm. Very, very important question. I hope I can answer this in a way that there can be a structured takeaway for everybody listening, right?
Hmm.
Because crisis can come in any phase of my life. And honestly, there is no definition to the crisis, right? Like, I can't say only a breakup or only moving cities crisis. For somebody who is, let's say, emotionally more sensitive than others or is more vulnerable because of other factors, even a health situation could be a crisis, which may not be for you, or may, like, it's really subjective.
Hmm.
But the impact of that crisis can definitely be on my emotional health, on my mental health. So uh, let's break this down, right? There are some things that one can do or absolutely must do to take care of their mental health when they feel like they're going through a challenging time, any kind of challenging time, I'd say. One would be to identify one to three people who are your support system, right? So it could be friends, family, it could be reaching out to a professional, but having a safe space where you can seek emotional support or you can seek guidance. So whenever you feel like you are feeling stuck or feeling, locked in with your own thoughts or with your own emotions, you have that support system. Uh, Secondly, maybe try and be more strict with maintaining your own routine, right? Which means that try and keep, anyway, a lot of things get disrupted in times like these. You are what we casually call that you feel like a scatterhead, that you
Yeah.
don't know what to do and what to process, and whether you want to attend to your emotions or you want to attend to what is asking for your attention. So try your level best to maintain a routine, which means that set up a schedule, structure your day, try and remain as far as possible with a sense of normalcy, right? That things that have to be done, they stay in the routine, and my coping or my dealing with the crisis or with the challenging times also gets some time in my day. But as far as possible, I'm trying to stick to a routine.
Right.
This is also a very crucial time to like look into self-care. But mind you, when I say self-care, I mean the most basic form of self-care, by which I mean just looking after your basic well-being of getting enough sleep,
Hmm.
eating like eating all your meals, eating healthy, and engaging in minimal physical activity. So
Right.
for me, when all the talks that we have around self-care of going for a date by yourself and reading a book and lighting a candle, while I recognize how much those things add, because it's nice to romanticize the idea of self-care, right now in a moment of crisis, I'm only talking about the basic, because deprivation of sleep, deprivation of meals can further accentuate my stressful experience, right, in that moment. So
Right.
these three elements of self-care also very important. And possibly another thing to keep in mind is to just keep your focus on what you really can control, right? When there is a challenging time or when we are in a crisis, we tend to worry a lot. And our worry, 99.99% is about things we cannot control. So you have to try and separate a little bit that this is stuff I can control. I have influence on this.
Yeah.
And usually, if you recognize, that'll be like this much. And this is things that I feel really worried about, it's all out of my control. I'm concerned about it. I'm concerned, but I have no influence, right?
Hmm.
So when I recognize the difference between that, I'm constantly trying to get my mind to say, okay, are we thinking about something that I can influence? So when I try my level best to focus my energy on that, on aspects of my life that I can really control, instead of, dwelling on stuff I can't control, I'm able to streamline my choices. So I think these would be my, you know, 4 points, I'd say. Maintain your routine, stick to that structure, seek support from friends, family, professional, uh, look out for your basic self-care of your sleep, your meals, your physical,
Mm.
just like physical activity, and focus on what you have control over, focus on what you really can influence instead of things that are beyond your control.
Understood. I think that's really helpful.
Crisis situations are such that uh, we wish that it doesn't come upon us,
Yeah.
but such is life that the unpredictability of things is such that, and this is the way you prepare, right?
Yeah.
I'll give you a simple example, Priyanka, that when you started to study, when we start studying for our higher education, I don't study because I have a problem. I study because I want to invest time learning skills for my career, and I believe my career is going to be 30 years or 20 years. So I want to invest that time in learning
Right.
skills. And that's exactly what applies to mental health, right? That we don't have to learn things only when I have a problem. I need to learn these skills to manage my thoughts and manage my emotions, because my mental health or my life is longer than my career. And I
Right.
need to learn this to kind of be better equipped to deal with any challenge that may come my way, which by
Yeah.
the way also impacts my career, right? So that's it, it's two in one.
Yeah, I think while we are having those emotions, to even understand what am I going through, you can't just be spending time, I think, passing your days blindly, right? Like, I think when you have those mental models in place, it genuinely helps you gain that meaningful experience, like day to day. I'm
Hmm.
going to put that to practice for sure. I'm actually trying to create a routine out of it. So thank you for the nudge. Thank you so
I'm
much.
glad. I'm
It was
glad that I was
really, it
able
was
to.
really enlightening, and I mean, I think people are going to benefit out of this, and I think we should have more discussions around it for sure.
Sure, thank you. Thank you for bringing this up, and thank you for making, bringing a conversation around mental health to your platform to help your audience and others to kind of focus on wellness and focus on, in the digital age, kind of be able to use this platform to understand things that would really benefit them. So it's nice to build that culture and nice to see you do that.
Thank you so much, Rashi. Thank you for your insights.